Well, let's go to Paris now, where we're joined by Louis Keumayou. He's a journalist and president of the African Information Club. And in Pointe-Noire in the Republic of Congo, we have Jerry Bambi. He's a journalist and host with AfricaNews. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Jerry, let me begin with you. Is there anything clear at the moment about where President Bongo is and what his health condition is like?
Well, thank you for having me. First off, I'd like to say that at least now we do have clarity that he is not dead. At first, the rumors were that he had died, and these rumors actually spread all through Gabon and increased fears and speculations about his state of health. So as of yesterday, his wife, Sylvia, put up a post on Facebook to say that he will be transferred to a hospital in Rabat, Morocco. So that is today. So as we have it, we should have President Bongo in Rabat today. Now, government sources at first said that he had suffered from severe fatigue, and they withdrew the statement to say that, in fact, he's suffering from discomfort and severe fatigue. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not a medical practitioner, right, but if you check what vertigo means, it has to do with a symptom that involves, the world. You're thinking the world is spinning around you, and you're being put off balance, and you are unable to make sense of things, right, because everything looks like it's moving and spinning. So, clarity about the state of health is that he is sick. He's sick, and right now he will be in Morocco today for what his wife says is a continuation of his recuperation process.
Right. So, Louis, because there wasn't information that was coming out of the government, on the one end of the spectrum, you had some people saying, okay, well, maybe he is just fatigued. On the other end of the spectrum, people saying, we think he's dead. And all the way in between, people saying, well, maybe it is vertigo as we heard here. Maybe he had a stroke and so on and so forth. Tell me why, Louis, there wasn't information coming out of the government to clarify things from the very beginning.
Well, it is very difficult to talk about the health of presidents, especially in Africa, even concerning the father of Ali Bongo, Omar Bongo. When he was dead in Spain, it took a long time to know what happened to him. Even at the last moment, when they were convinced he's dead, the prime minister came to tell the journalists that he saw him, he was alive, he discussed with him. So it is very difficult to have precise information concerning the health of presidents. And if we go further in the past, we can remember that even concerning Ivory Coast, Houphouët-Boigny, when he was dead, it took some weeks to know he was dead, and people were expecting what will happen with the beloved president. So it is very difficult when it concerns African presidents to have precise details concerning their health.
Yeah, and so, Jerry, because people have seen this before with Leon Mba in 1967, because they've seen it before with the father of the current president, is that why they assumed the worst and they assumed that the government was trying to cover up his death?
I mean, this will not be far from the truth. Just as Louis has said, it's always a big deal when it comes to the status of the health of African heads of state or presidents, especially when they're ill and it looks as though they might be unable to continue. So I think it all revolves around power struggles. As you know, the Bongo dynasty has spanned several years. At first, his father ruled 42 years before he died in 2009. And there was a lot of controversy revolving. There was a lot of blackout, secrecy. Even a French publication had reported his death before Gabon's authorities decided to report his death at the time. So you're right. I think it's about the power struggles. Right now, right, the concern is, okay, so people will die. People are thinking, who will govern us? I mean, who will be the leader? Will the dynasty continue?
Right. And is there a political vacuum, Louis?
No, there is no political vacuum. There is now a triumvirate, if we can call it like that, with the Prime Minister, the President of the Senate, and the Vice President who are ruling the country. And people say it is not by the rules. They are not respecting the rules concerning the way the president should be, the people should do, should manage the power when president is out of service. And the fact is, they've already organized all of that, as they did in 2009. They are doing the same this year concerning Ali Bongo, and they're expecting him to come back. And if he doesn't come back, I'm pretty sure, as many of the opponents, the current opponents, are issued from the PDG, Parti Démocratique Gabonais, they will conserve the system.
Right.
It has been working since 1960. The same families will continue to rule Gabon as they did from 1960 up to now.
Louis, the system has been working for whom? All the people or just a few?
Just for a few, a happy few, a very, very small number of happy few, because it is maybe 4 or 5 big families and a small region, the Haut-Ogooué region in the eastern part of Gabon. Those are the people who rule Gabon since now almost 60 years.
Yeah. So, Jerry, for those who look at this and they say, well, Ali Bongo is clearly not well, perhaps we have to start thinking about a future in Gabon without him. For those who say this is going to end a 50-year family dynasty, are they being premature and not looking at the reality and the amount of control that the people around him have on this country?
Yes, I agree with you. I think so too, because it's always a very difficult situation, absolutely difficult situation. Currently, we have his brother, Frederick Bongo, who is in charge of the country's intelligence services. And we do also have someone who heads the presidential guard, who is very close to him as well, who's his cousin. Now, there are 2 power camps in Gabon. You have some who are backing the man who heads the intelligence services, Frederick Bongo, and they consist of generals in the country and some, powerful people. And also in the opposition camp, we won't forget that, in the elections of 2016, 2 years ago, I think, Jean-Ping, there are people who still really do believe that Jean-Ping, the opposition leader who spent years in the African Union and who's really famous, did win that election. So there are people who back him as well. So here we've got like 2 big camps right currently, and it will be very difficult. It will be a difficult scenario, and things that will play out are things that we can't foretell for now.
Yeah, and
in
Jerry,
my estimation.
Yeah, so Jerry, the country is the 5th largest oil producer in Africa, on the African continent. There is wealth under the soil of Gabon, but would you concur with Louis that those in leadership have misappropriated the wealth and just kept it for themselves and haven't shared it with the people?
This is a very serious thing to say, but one thing for certain is if you look at the indices, the economic indices, what does it say? Are people faring better? And there is growing discontent in Gabon, that is for certain. In terms of corruption and how people, particular set of or group of people have been cornering the wealth of the country, I do not know, but I think that generally this is the perception in Gabon and in other African countries. And if people would have their way, they would want change.
Right.
And I think this is what people would want in Gabon as well.
Yeah, and the reason I ask this, and let me come back to you, Louis, the reason I ask this is that anytime if we look at the indices, as Jerry would say, and we look at the track record and we look at where the money is going, and there seems to be inequality and seems to be an imbalance, then naturally, if there's a question mark hanging over the future of the leader, I wonder, would we see people taking to the streets to say, we want change, this is a chance for a fresh opportunity? Or is that unlikely to happen in a place like Gabon, Louis?
No, people have already organized some protestation, So you see them here in Paris, you see them in Libreville, less maybe, but you see them anyway. So they are disappointed with the way the country has been ruled up to now. They don't want it to be ruled like that, because if they just consider how things have been changing in Equatorial Guinea, which is a neighboring country, they see that using the capital for the wealth of the population can be done, even when the leaders are in corruption issues. So if they don't understand that, if they don't accept that, they've protested in 2009 when President Bongo died, and before that even, they were already protesting. That brought the country to the national conference they organized before the multipartism system. So Gabonese are tired, of course. They are showing the demonstrations that they do not agree with the way their leaders are dealing with the development of the country. But they have no power to change that. Elections are always organized, and it is always the same history. The president, the current president, is always elected, even if he doesn't win. So they are trying to do it by the legal way, but it is very difficult, and the expectation is that they will have a strong opposition to bring that issue in the reality in the next years.
And Louis, is the opposition still connected to the same ruling elite? If we look at the example of someone like Jean Ping, he still has connections to Bongo, even though he's an opposition leader. Does that mean that there isn't really a viable opposition right now?
My point of view is that what will happen in Gabon will not be a revolution. What will happen will look like what happened in Zimbabwe or in Angola. It will be an insider who will probably be the next president of Gabon if Ali passes away or if there are new elections, because he's not able to continue ruling the country. But I do not think someone coming from the opposition, even the new opponents of now, who were in the system, like Jean Ping or the others, that those people will be able to win an election or to put Ali Bongo out of the power, out of the palace he's in as president of Gabon.
Is that the only realistic scenario playing out, Jerry, when it comes to life after Bongo? If he dies or if he's not healthy enough to continue, right, or if there's fresh elections, is there going to be an Emerson Mnangagwa type of figure that has to come from within the ruling elite without the prospect of a revolution, as Louis says?
This in particular, I think, is not going to play out. I don't see this, and this is because, like Louis has said, the opposition in the country are now more resilient, and I think that they're tired. Currently, there is a constitutional crisis that is taking place just because of this is absent, and I don't foresee that it will be someone from within his circles. Also, since 1960, there's not been any coup in Gabon, and we don't even foresee any coup happening. But I think they're inching closer, and closer to having a fairer system. That is what I really make of the current situation.
Louis, very finally, why do you think it was so difficult for us to get either a representative of the Gabonese government or somebody who is a firm supporter of Ali Bongo on this program? We tried very hard. Why do you think they kept on rejecting us?
Well, I don't know. Probably because they don't have enough information. When you consider just the situation concerning the health of the president, at the beginning, it was the spokesperson of the president who was speaking, telling us there was fatigue or something like that. And at the last moment, it is the wife of the president who has decided to say what is going on. We had two newspapers telling us President Ali will go to London, he will go to Morocco, and finally, it is the wife of the president who is now taking the communication in her hands. That means all those who are in the government or in the embassies are unable to tell us precisely what is going on, and it is only from the family communication can be considered as true and safe also. So I think the representatives of the government don't want to speak simply because they don't have enough information to say what is going on really now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So the last we heard, he was on the way to Rabat. We haven't heard since, and we'll be following this closely. Gentlemen, it's been good to talk about Gabon with you on the Newsmakers. It's a country we have not covered before, and I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you. Louis Keumayou and Jerry Bambi, thanks for joining us.